This video will contain spoilers. Captain America Brave New World. Universally negative ratings. I watched it in the cinema with my brother and my dad. Harrison Ford, Anthony Mackie, Tim Blake Nelson, Liv Tyler, Giancarlo Esposito, Carl Lumbly. Um, Going into this, I was concerned because obviously this is a sequel to Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which I wouldn't call the show bad, but the problem with it was the fact that they made it just after the whole George Floyd thing, and they made the show about that because it's a black lead, and I was concerned that they were going to do that with this, despite the fact that this is coming out nearly 5 years after all that shit was over and done with. Thankfully, they didn't. Like Carl Lumbly's character really only exists in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, just so that they can say the black people have been oppressed forever in America. Um, I don't know if he exists in the comics or not, or if he does, whether or not that's the intention of the character existing in the comics, but at the very least, that's the intention of the character existing in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. But they don't have. I mean, they mention him being in prison for 30 years and being experimented on, but they don't make it about race, which thank God for that. Something else that was concerning was the reports of having so many villains in it because, we knew Giancarlo would be in it. They didn't say who he would be. Um, and no one had guessed who he was because the suit that he has, if you can call it that, is not comic accurate. The only thing that is comic accurate is the eye color, I think, because Giancarlo will wear contact lenses in it. um, you had Tim Blake Nelson as the leader. You have Red Hulk, and then I heard rumors about them considering getting Jessica Chastain to play a villain in the film. She doesn't appear, so all you have is, I think, Sidewinder's the name of Giancarlo's character, Red Hulk, and the leader, who is the main bad guy. And yeah, it's still three villains in one film. It still seems a little too much, but the way that they did it, I think, was quite good because Sidewinder is just a pawn in this. And Dylan had said, because he seen it today, I seen it yesterday. He said that they treated the character like shit because he doesn't really do anything. But I mean, maybe he'll appear in something else. We don't know yet. This is just setting him up potentially. Another thing is the fact that the film went through a name change. For those who don't know, they initially were going to call the film Captain America New World Order. And then they changed it to Brave New World. And I remember that people were going, oh, what the fuck is up with that name? Like, what? For context, Brave New World is the name of a book from the 1930s, which it's a dystopian book. And the way that it works is that, you have 1984, which is like the dystopian book. And you have a lot of other dystopian books, films, shows, whatever, that they all have the same sort of dark tone as 1984. But Brave New World is different because it takes a lighter tone. Like it's more utopian, but it's just because, I mean, in the dystopian stuff in 1984 and all that, the people know that everything has gone to shit. In Brave New World, The people think that this is the best society that they can ever possibly have. Like, it is perfect. But the problem with utopias is that they're always built on top of bones, you know? So I was quite excited for the title. It's more subtle and it makes sense. But then actually watching the film, there's not really anything like Brave New World in it. There's not really anything New World Order in it. Like if President Ross had like tried to outright stop Captain America rather than just like sort of going like, please stop. Like if he tried his best to actually do something about it, that would be fine. So I feel like the title of the film is misleading, but it's not the worst. This is not something that I had seen as a concern, but it's something that is worth mentioning. A couple weeks ago, Anthony Mackie had said that something along the lines of he believes that Captain America should not represent the views of America. And you have people commenting on that, people who have no interest in superhero stuff whatsoever, saying that they should cancel the film. It's always cancel the film and never kick him out, rewrite it, whatever. And I kept on commenting to those people, the views of the actor do not represent the views of Marvel. That is not a true statement. Marvel believes the same thing because they're left wing. But they're not going to say it out loud anymore because they know that they're not going to sell as many tickets if they do. As I always say, or I've said it once, I don't know why I said that, but as I've said in a somewhat recent video, the intention does not matter if they don't actually say something or they don't actually do something. You know, if they don't send a message out, like, clearly, then it can just be ignored. You can twist it in your own way. For me, I'm twisting it to be based. And the base thing of this is that Captain America is he's defying orders that he believes are not good orders, and he's fighting for the truth. So, what did I actually think about the film? I thought it was quite good. Out of the 4 Captain America films that we have right now, obviously it's not going to be anywhere near as good as Winter Soldier and Civil War. Those films are the peak of the MCU. First Avenger, I think, is underrated, but I think this film is better than First Avenger. Um, this might sound weird and it might be a bit confusing, but it's the best way I can put it. Steve Rogers is Captain America, and Chris Evans is Captain America, and Sam Wilson is Captain America, but Anthony Mackie is not Captain America. That's not necessarily a bad thing because it doesn't need to be that way anymore. I'm not going to elaborate on that because I can't. I apologize. Like, going into this, I was thinking, right, I need to defend myself on this because there's going to be a lot of people saying that the film is absolute shit. If you don't like a film, that's fine, but please tell me what was wrong with it because, to be honest, there's not much wrong with it. I'm going to go through the things that I found right with it. One, the action was amazing, especially when he's up against humans. The Red Hulk fight scene was not the best, but it wasn't terrible. The only problem I had with the fighting is the fact that his wings have the same vibranium that the Black Panther suit does, where if he gets hit, the vibranium sort of builds up energy that can be used as an attack. There's a game that does something like that, but I can't think of what it is. But they only use it 3 times in the film. They show it off at the start. Then he does something clever where he uses it to blow up a missile that was being fired on a ship that the president was on. And then he uses it to fight Red Hulk at the end. That's it. 2-hour film uses it 3 times. And speaking of, he doesn't wear the suit all that much in the film. There's an entire arc, if you want to call it that, where he needs to break into the camp that the leader is in, but he doesn't wear the suit for some reason. When I was watching the film, I was thinking, there's not much point in bringing the suit because he has the shield with him, so that's all he really needs. But then, thinking about it right now, the suit, you have your wings that you can use as a weapon. Why didn't you bring it? Because, they were quite close to capturing the leader, him and Joaquin, who they were close, and then he got a couple of bad guys to fight the 2 of them, and it gave him just enough time to escape. If Cap brought his suit, then they could have took those guys out much faster, or maybe they could have caught the leader. So, just why? I know that was me saying a bad thing about it, but it was something I want to elaborate on. The music I thought was quite good, even though it feels a bit cartoony at times. The overall tone of the film kind of had a spy movie feel to it. It's like how I imagine Ben Affleck's Batman film would have been like, based on what Matt Reeves said about it. So, from those things alone, that makes up for a decent film at the very least. As for the bad things, the CGI is shit, to be expected, and they do show it off in the trailer. Someone pointed out to me that the CGI is not shit because Red Hulk looks just like Harrison Ford. And yeah, Red Hulk does just look like Harrison Ford. He looks more like Harrison Ford than any of the Hulks look like their actors. And I appreciate that. But it doesn't look real. It's just not done well. And even there was a shot where it is from the POV of Red Hulk staring down at Cap, and they're they're standing on a road which it's all rubble now because of the fight. Even that, which very fucking simple, even that they couldn't get right. To be clear, I'm not blaming the CGI team. I blame Disney / Marvel for whatever it is, whether it be crunch culture, underpayment, getting people who don't have the experience. I don't know. Whatever it is, I blame Marvel / Disney, not the CGI team. The bad CGI I would consider quite a minor thing, even though it's quite a CGI heavy film. The worst thing about the film is the character of Joaquin Torres, who is the new Falcon. That man will not shut up. He's constantly cracking one-liners, and it's just... I hate it when people make videos making fun of the humor in Marvel films, because it used to be that the humor was... Marvel had a reputation for being quite funny, even though these aren't comedy films, and people loved it. But post Endgame, people just made fun of them, and it's the kind of film where they'd be like, oh, the bad guy's right behind me, isn't he? It's not that bad. Yeah, it's quite unfunny at times, but it's not it's nowhere near that fucking level. Until now. Joaquin just sucks. He's funny, like, 3 times in the film, maybe. But 3 times compared to the basically infinite amount of times he's cracking jokes is not good. So that brings the film down, but it's I wouldn't say that makes it a bad film at all. Like at this point, it still is a pretty fucking good film. So what's the problem? Another thing I want to mention is the way that the leader looks in the film. It's not comic accurate, but I would consider that a good thing because in the comics, the leader he's basically human, but his skin is green and he has a massive forehead. In this, the skin it looks weird. I don't know how to describe it. I don't know what the problem is, but there is a problem with it. And then instead of making just giving him like a big head, they basically made it so that his brain is sticking out. And Dylan said that it was terrible. I think it is the best we could have got, which is not to say that it's good. It's just that I actually prefer this over them attempting to do a comic accurate version because I think if they tried to do a comic accurate, it would look worse than what we got. That's all I can think of in terms of like the good and bad. And weighing these against each other. Like seriously, if you didn't like the film, please comment because I want to know like why you didn't like it because weighing these together, I would still call it a pretty good film. So just please reach out. One last thing I want to mention. It is surprising that Liv Tyler came back because I thought she retired because she did the first season of 911 Lone Star, but then after that season aired, the pandemic hit, and she didn't return because of Corona. And I hadn't seen her in anything since. But no, it turns out she is still acting. She was in this, and she was in something like another film, and I think she was in a show as well after Lone Star. I'm not sure. Two more things. Someone pointed out that it's a bit stupid that this is more of a Incredible Hulk sequel than a Captain America film, but it kind of makes sense that this isn't a Captain America sequel because the last film was Civil War, and so much has happened since then that his story has continued in Infinity War and Endgame, and it ends at Endgame. Steve Rogers' story is over. This is not Captain America 4. This is the beginning of a new series. You know, we had the Chris Evans trilogy, and maybe now we're going to have the Anthony Mackie trilogy. I would like to see a sequel. Um, and the last thing is that there's a scene where you see a bunch of photos of Ross with his family. One particular photo looks like they tried to sort of mesh together Harrison Ford's face and William Hurt's face. And I was thinking to myself, literally 30 seconds before you see that, I was thinking, like, Disney are going to be retarded enough to take a photo of William Hurt, sellotape Harrison Ford's face on top of it, but not crop out all the other bits. So it'll be like, they'll take a photo of William Hurt at day, and take a photo of Harrison Ford at night. I'll just I'll make like my own version. Like imagine something like this, but the other way around. So it's Harrison Ford's face on William Hurt's body, and I have them like edited it around the background of William Hurt. I was thinking in my head, Disney's stupid enough to do something like that, and then they show like that morph, whatever you want to call it, of both their faces. I think that's what it is. I'm not too sure. And actually, I just remembered one last thing. I don't think I'm going to remember anything else because there probably is a bunch of other things that I have to say. But two more things. Right, the Bucky cameo I did not like. I was hoping that he wouldn't appear in it because I would like them to not be together all the time. Then he did appear, and Sam said something about how he should have taken the super soldier serum, and I was hoping that Bucky would have said something like, you know, you don't need to take it. Like you are strong enough, or something like that. Just some inspiring motivational speech, but it didn't happen. So fuck that cameo. And the last thing is I realized in watching it that I think William Hurt was good as General Ross. Harrison Ford is amazing as President Ross, and also it made sense to get Harrison Ford to play Ross because grumpy. I actually seen something earlier that it was like it's a clip of like when he first becomes Red Hulk, and it's like this wasn't CGI. Marvel just got a bunch of the actors to like ask Harrison Ford questions about Star Wars. So I would say overall and give my opinion, but I've already said.